Yo, yo. Let's plug him up this drink real quick. A little station. What's going on, folks? What's up? What's happening? How we looking? How we looking? Today's topic. What we got here? What up, family? Leland Tattoos. What's happening? G-Boy Hair Salon. What's good? Westchester Barber Academy. That's the family. What's good? Blockchain. What up, Ish? And Les Cuts Barbershop. What's happening? What's happening? We're going to get it cracking in just a bit. Just going to get it cracking. All right, today, the different abuse that gets downplayed, mental, emotional, and verbal. That's a good job. Definitely a good job. Bossed Up 909, what's happening? Yeah, join us. Timmons the Barber, what's happening? What's good with y'all? We gonna get tapped in a second. We just warming it up. We got an in-person that we got coming up also for anybody that's in Philadelphia surrounding. If you want to join the in-person, will be in person, secret location, private location, and we have guests that are going to speak on different topics with relationships, you know, from marriage to dating to playing the field to being single, you know, all those things that we have conversations about. So that's going to be at some point, I want to say this month. You know what I mean? So y'all tap in. It'll be good. Y'all come through. We got a nice private location, good food. You know what I mean? Drinks, just a lounge type situation. And we have some good conversation. We're going to go live from that location. So if you would like to be on that panel, or if you would like to participate, or if you would like to just join, just to see what's going on, chime in, you know, kind of fall back, watch what's going on, listen to what's going on, enjoy your night with some friends, come on out, and then we have our conversations. And of course, even our audience has the opportunity to chime in, you know, so yeah, it's just a good vibe, just a good vibe. You know, when we come here, we like to have good conversation that we can kind of take something back from. We can vent, we can kind of share, you know, some of our perspectives, and over time, you know, get an understanding of, you know, the male and female point of views and perspectives, you know, within relationships or dating or even in marriage. So that's, you know, that's an event that we have coming up. So y'all stay tapped in. Inbox Cherie if you're interested on being on that panel, or if you want to just be in the building for that event and enjoy yourself with some friends and come on out. So that's that. So I'll get it started up, Cherie. So today's topic, the different abuse that gets downplayed, mental, emotional, and verbal. I mean, as we always talk about the physical abuse, so we hear a lot about physical abuse, but we don't always go into mental, emotional, and even verbal. So this is a great topic. But just for anybody that's just tuning in, Clarence, what's good, family? Woodland, what's happening? Crazy Custom Creations, what's happening? What we do is life of Nah, what's good? I was trying to get that. What we do is my name is Jamal and my wife is Cherie, and her box is off right now. But anyway, we do our weekly live that we go live on, and we discuss relationship topics. It's really a way for us to just get some therapy, kind of get some point of views from other people. You know, we don't claim to have all the answers, but sometimes it's good for us to just have open dialogue, some transparency, you know, and even get some different perspectives. And sometimes, we even have opportunities where everybody agrees and is on the same page, and we kind of like have a light bulb moment. But it started from us being married for 13 years, having a rough, 13 years, but we had a year of enlightenment. We had a year of clarity. It was during COVID. And, ever since that, we've been trying to kind of get back our groove and just stay in a good space by doing different things. And that's what this podcast or live does for us. Helps us to, communicate and discuss different topics and share it with people that we rock out with. So that's that. Now, a couple little rules real quick. If you want to join in, you're welcome to join in. We try to keep an eye on the time, just because a lot of times when we going back and forth about different topics and people are sharing, other people want to get in, and sometimes we'll just be locked in with who's in the boxes, and sometimes other people on the outside don't get an opportunity to come on in. So we're going to do like a rotation type thing when we have multiple people that want to get in. That's A. B, of course, you make your comments in the comment section. That's all good. Rock out. But if you just want to be heard, you can tap in and you can get up in one of these boxes and you can share how you feel, and kind of go from there. Other thing is, don't hesitate to take the time to hit that umbrella. I'm sorry, that airplane on the side. Share this to, as many people as you can, just to kind of put them on to the live. We always have some good dialogue, and if they can share something, that'd be good too. But without further ado, let's start to hit on to our topic of today, which is the other forms of abuse, which is not just physical abuse, but verbal, mental, and verbal and mental abuse. So, yeah. So, Cherie, how you feel about just our topic for the day?
I mean, I think this is a great topic, only just to bring light to these three things, because they are real.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are going through these things. They get downplayed a lot by the physical part of it, because a lot of times it gets said, well, I'm not beating her ass, as if that's supposed to mean something. But you have people who are getting verbally abused, and you have the mental abuse and emotional abuse. And just because they're not getting their behind beat, it's like, oh well, forget everything else. But all of those other things still play a role in a person's life. It just messes them up. Like, somebody doesn't have to just be beating your ass to mess you up. Like, they really can like put you in a dark place just for being verbally abusive. And then it starts to mess with your mental, like, making you feel just, second guessing yourself, just your whole everything about you, like making you feel like, well, maybe it is me, maybe I am the problem. So the mental and emotional and verbal abuse is very important, because a lot of people nowadays are really going through these things. Some people are going through physical abuse, but verbal and all like that, it's just as real as physical too, and verbal and everything else. Like, it's just as big. So it's good that this was just brought up, and it get brought into the limelight, because it is important just as everything else. Well, just as physical abuse, rather.
Yeah, I definitely connect with this because, like you said, a lot of people do say things like, well, if somebody not beating your ass or whatever the case may be, and they, holding it down, they good to you, whatever like that, by taking care of whatever other responsibilities, then, you good. But there is another component, is that emotional, and that verbal and even that mental, abuse that can go on with them relationships. And just being like transparent, for me, I just think that we have a lot of, in my experiences, I've been in relationships. It's very few relationships I've been in where, there hasn't been some toxic, traits in that relationship, and I've noticed that sometimes when you are not being toxic yourself, which it may be a form of mental, it may be a form of verbal or even emotional toxicity, it's almost like you can't always get that person's attention. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, I've seen people that haven't been, you know what I'm saying, mental, emotional, and verbal, and it could be that they have the wrong partner or whatever the case may be. But I've seen people that haven't been in, you know, spoken any of those languages, and get taken advantage of or taken for granted. You know what I mean? And so it's like in our relationships, you know, is there a thing where some people just don't get it unless you speak in a an abusive language? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like I said, we come from a lot of different struggles at home growing up. You know what I'm saying? We see relationships, poor relationships when we coming up. And in some ways, we mimic certain things or respect certain things that might not be healthy for a relationship. So, I mean, like, how do you feel about that? Do you like? Have you ever noticed, or do you feel like sometimes when you, or even in the past, whatever, or it might even be girlfriends or whatever that you've noticed with their male friends or whatever the case may be, whatever the relationship dynamic is, but somebody in a relationship is like taking for granted somebody that's being respectful and honorable to them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is
Um, yeah, I seen that. But I don't feel that the person has to stoop to their level for you to for them to be heard. I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's the way that you should get someone to listen to you. If you feel like, okay, um, if you feel like they're toxic or whatever, is other ways to get their attention, and maybe that's their cry for help. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's a way for them to get you to understand, or you to see, like, I'm going through something. It doesn't mean like, okay, let me say certain things to you to get your attention, or let me be toxic because you feel like they're being toxic. You may need to say something, because that's verbal abuse. That's still being verbally abusive, because if you feel like you have to be like stoop to their level because you feel like they're being toxic, instead of you trying to help them or understand what's going on with them, you're basically saying, like, you feel like, oh, I gotta be toxic with them, but really you're just being verbally abusive yourself, because being toxic means that you're going to say inappropriate, disrespectful things to the person, which is going to make it worse for them. It's not going to help them.
hmm. And it's deep because, and we spoke about this before. I had, like, you know, somebody that I was like, just I wouldn't say, I guess we was kind of dating, you know what I mean, um but either way, we was like just getting to know each other more. So I would say, you know what I mean, just kind of like cool, kicking it or whatever the case may be. But I really noticed, you know, with this particular girl that, she really didn't respect anything but like verbal or emotional abuse, verbal abuse, you know what I'm saying, manipulation or whatever the case may be. It just had to be some type of toxic feedback. And outside of that, it was like, you couldn't get through to her. She did not respect civilness. She did not respect civility. She didn't respect chivalry, you know what I mean? All of these pleasantries that you would expect from somebody that's either courting you or, that you're befriending or that building something with. And I noticed it. And so I was like, all right, well, you're not understanding this. So out of frustration, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna give you what you're asking for. So, you know what I mean? I picked up on the verbal abuse, the you know what I'm saying, the whole physicalness. And sometimes, honestly, um, it was like a mild dose just to like give her a fix. It wasn't even like like it was a purposeful hate or anger or meanness. It was just like, all right, get over here, girl. Ooh, ooh. You know what I mean? Something like that. And I was like, and the response was just like, it was a turn on for her. And I was like, you know what? I had to eventually, you know what I'm saying, step away from that situation because I knew I couldn't keep up with, you know what I'm saying, the demand that she had for that type of energy. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, it's only going to escalate. You know what I mean? I'm just doing it just on the strength. It's almost like, me just testing it out to see, like, is it me? Let me see what's up.
Mhm.
I grip her up or, just be a little bit aggressive or whatever. It ain't even had to be real. And I noticed that, what I'm saying, when she got that aggression, she appreciated it. And it wasn't really my style. So, eventually, I stepped off, what I mean? We was cool, but I just, what I'm saying, kept it moving. And the next person that she started dating, this nigga was, what I mean, he was born, what I mean, he was born for that toxic shit. And he gave her high dosage of the bullshit, what I mean? And they end up kicking it off, what I mean? And it was like not like a Bonnie and Clyde, but it was like it was like Bobby and Whitney or some shit like that, what I mean? And I'm like, what do you do in those situations when, and I didn't necessarily care about her like that, what I'm saying? But what if somebody's in a relationship where you really do care about somebody and they don't respond to you being, respectful, or they don't respond to you being, civil? Like, how does one work with that? And again, we all got history. We all grew up different ways and have a lot of traumas just as a people. So I don't think it's any of us that's really trauma or toxic free, to be completely honest. Maybe if we go Beverly Hills or, some places that just are disconnected from, what I'm saying, the community. But, by and large, we got a lot of stuff that we deal with. So, what I'm saying, what you think, how does one deal with being with somebody that they care about and feeling that they're not appreciated or they're not, like this being civil doesn't work?
It depends on what the situation is,
Mm.
because I don't believe that that one person is just, oh, they're so calm, they're so cool, they don't cause any form of commotion. It's just that one person. Like, people are not acting that way just because. Like, every action calls for a reaction. And when you first meet people, you meet them, they're happy, they're in good spirits, and then over time, where you're with somebody who's either not listening to you, who's always being verbally, mentally abusive to you, and then after a while you feed them the energy that they've been giving you, then now it's like, oh, well, how do you handle someone that's just so toxic? No, you made them that way. Like, what I mean? They may have had their own little toxic issues, but it wasn't like right off the bat. It didn't come just right at the forefront. What I mean? It comes from somewhere, and those type of people, again, like I said, you gotta ask, like, what's really going on? Like, what's the problem? And then if the person that's asking what the problem is not really trying to address it and want to justify the problem, then it's going to continue to be a problem. It takes two in a relationship. Like I said, nobody just wakes up and just toxic. Nobody. Like, we all got our own little flaws and issues, but we come into the equation with positive thoughts and mindset with where they want the relationship to be with that person in particular, that they're with. They're not like, oh, I'm gonna come in and just act like a pure jackass. No, it doesn't work like
Well,
that.
I mean, it's definitely, different scenarios. We do it is. I was looking at Ayana Von Zant, and she had the show, that series, when it's like Ayana Von Zant fixed my life or something like. She does. And basically she does like marriage counseling, or she was doing marriage counseling, and she had did Neffy, Keisha Cole's sister. So she had did Neffy and Keisha Cole's sister. No, I'm sorry. She had did Neffy and her husband. I forget his name. And she was just, they were running down their relationship, their marriage, and it's it's not like she woke up and was like, I'm choosing to be toxic this morning. It was ultimately like ingrained in the fabric of who she was. Like, we could all like meet, start off, and have a representative, and we could all like, feel happy and good, when we meeting people. And this is, I'm completely talking about people in general. and I'm using their situation actually for an example, but when you start off and you just meet somebody, you got the butterflies and all of that, that's a period. That's a phase of the relationship. And, if you move forward beyond that phase, then you start to get into, more so like real life situations, So you start to kind of come down off the high and you start to be more of yourself and the things that who you truly are, starts to, kind of come to the surface, over time. So for most of us, yeah, we're not going to see any of these these real issues because we just meeting somebody on the surface, and that could be, months. That could be a year or two. Where we just dealing with somebody from the surface. But what Ayana Von Zant was saying, she was like, "Yo," she was like, basically, people form trauma bonds, and she was looking at their relationship, and she was like, "Listen, like." Neffy was she went through a lot, and her husband went through a lot too, I want to say like molestation, some really traumatic issues growing up. And ultimately, what Ayana Von Zant was saying was like, listen, y'all basically y'all formed a trauma bond, meaning like you feel comfortable with somebody else that has experienced trauma at the level that you've experienced, and you feel comfortable with being with somebody that's going to keep you in that area of trauma. And so even though they didn't like it, and when I say I looked at the faces and it was like it was burnt out all the way. Like dude looked like he was just on his like last, like his spirit was just gone. Neffy, she just looked, like she was just drained. And even though they was draining the hell out of each other, they continued their relationship because it still was a comforting place for them to be in this trauma. And so they just kept it going. And they didn't know how to stop it. They didn't know how to help the other person because they never healed from the shit that they went through. So they just felt comfort in finding somebody else that had just as much pain and drama in their life. But unfortunately, they was like basically like emotionally killing each other. They was verbally, mentally, and emotionally killing each other. But it was like they just could not separate from the comfort of having somebody else, that understood trauma to that level. And that's what I'm talking about. It's deep, but it's like, what I mean? When is when do you say enough's enough? A, what I mean? And like B, again, like if you're dealing with trauma yourself, because he was saying it was her fault, she was saying it was his fault. At the end of the day, they both have, honestly, you know, um, they both had invested, toxicity into the relationship. What I'm saying? Like they both had their stuff. One could say one was a little bit more worse than the other, or whatever the case may be, but it was just bad all the way around. But it's like, damn, when how do you identify that, what, I need to do something different. I need to either help you do something different or I need to help myself do something different. You know what I mean? Or like when do you get to the point where you like, we really need to both work on ourselves or separate or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? What's your take on that? Like when there's two people, that have, just shit that they really gotta work out. Like how do you coexist when it's two
Well,
people?
for one, you got to stop doing the blame game, and people have to start taking responsibility in the roles that they play in a lot of situations in which we don't do as a whole, as a relation, people in relationships. We don't do that. Like, you'll, even when you're having a disagreement or a person is coming to you with an issue, instead of you acknowledging and addressing the issue in the moment, you got to think of something to say that they did to you, and it has nothing to do with what's going on in that moment. Instead of staying focused on what we're talking about, what the discussion is about in hand, you'll do the mental reverse thing and say, well, I'm only doing this because you did this. And now it's the childish game. You know what I mean? That's the mental play. Instead of just acknowledging like, my bad, my fault. I may have done this at that moment, at that time. I may have hurt your feelings. I may have made you feel some type of way. Hey, Jenny. Like, instead of us just taking responsibility for the role that we play in the moment when your partner is bringing it to your attention, we do the whole, what they call it, like what the kids do, just be, it's a word for that.
Well, like, um, so like we would need like deflect and they try to put it on somebody else type thing.
Like you just deflect and just go into the whole opposite direction. Now we getting into a whole argument or a debate about what the other person did and not the whole initial conversation. Now we getting sidetracked. We talking about something that happened 5 years ago. Like, it's
Big.
like, what? Like that's why, a lot of times things don't really, gaslighting,
Hmm.
tit for tat.
Hmm.
Like, just instead of us saying to each other or acknowledging what the person is saying to you, like, listen, I felt some type of way, what you said or what you did in that moment. And that's our problem. We can't say, I apologize or I'm sorry. We're looking for someone to say it to us because you feel like, okay, this is the opportunity. Like, how dare you say I did so and so to you? Well, what about what you did to me? Well, guess what? Right now, we're not talking about you. And that doesn't mean that the situation is not important, because it is. It's definitely important. But right now, in this moment, I'm coming to you with a situation on how I feel or how something was handled. And it just goes left. And then also, too, even with those type of situations where y'all having dialogue and you're talking about it, and y'all both could have felt some type of way about the situation in that moment, instead of two people being like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, my bad, let's just kumbaya, enjoy the rest of our day, be positive. Now we both mad because nobody wants to say, my bad, I apologize, I'm sorry, I did. If you felt like I did that to you in that moment, I apologize. Even if it's, a person that's saying like, well, you did say whatever to me and I reacted that way. Even though it doesn't make it okay to react a certain kind of way. Because again, every action calls a reaction. And we don't never just say I'm sorry. Like, I don't understand. I can't really get that. Why you can't just acknowledge your fault in the situation in that moment without feeling like somebody else owes you an apology? Why can't it just be, my bad, I apologize, and or it don't have to be I'm sorry, my bad, like, I love you, my fault. Like, it really wasn't on that type time, to give that person that you with that comfort and that trust. Like, listen, I'm not trying to hurt you. Like, that's why we debate and go back and forth so much, because the person that you're with is always going against what, like, they're not listening to you. Like, they like, yeah, you trying to hurt me. You trying to hurt me. And you're like, what? I'm not trying to hurt you. Like, you should be able to let your partner tell you that without you feeling like you full of shit. Like, you should feel this is the person that you're with, you're spending, well, you have in your mind to spend the rest of your life with, or whatever is going on, whoever your significant other is. Right now, in the moment, y'all together. So y'all should have that trust to say, I'm sorry to each other. And the person that you're with, you should believe them. Unless you just don't feel like, they're really sorry and they really out to hurt you. And if you feel that way, then you don't need to be with them.
So that's a good point. D said people often are on survival mode and can't even tap into the state of being understanding. Their mind is wired to defend.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So, all right, let's get back to like real life situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, you know, like in real life situations, we do have a lot of people that are on defense mode, on survival mode. That's a good point. Like, we have, I want to say, a large percentage of us are literally on survival mode. We trying to make it happen for ourselves. We trying to make it happen for our kids. You know what I mean? And you know, some of us have been in survival mode our whole lives, and that's back to what I was saying in terms of like us growing up with toxic traits. You know what I mean? So young ladies, you might be on defense mode, not even know it. You know what I'm saying? You might be walking down the street and somebody speaks to you, and you might like either ignore them or you know what I'm saying, give them a little, you know what I mean, a look like I ain't with it today. You know what I mean? And this person might have literally just been like trying to be pleasant, but it's like, you know what I mean, the way you've grown up, you like listen, you know what I mean. Everybody that's just speaking is not cool, so I gotta be on defense mode even when I'm just going to the store, when I'm walking around, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of times we go into our relationships and we forget to put our guard down. We forget that we actually might have chose somebody that might actually be our, or somebody that we can trust. And so we come into relationships with our guard up. And so that's an issue too. Like, a lot of women, you know what I'm saying, are experiencing, you know what I'm saying, all right, cool. I have to do things on my own. I may have children, you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, I can't rely on, you know what I'm saying? I can't set myself up to rely on, whoever's in front of me. You know what I mean? If we hit it off, cool. But I can't put all my eggs in that one basket. But a lot of times, that attitude, you know what I'm saying? That attitude can be an issue. And it's not looked at it like it's a verbal or emotional abuse, but a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, females really do have a verbal abuse, you know what I'm saying, where it's either loud or, you know what I mean, just aggressive or, you know what I mean, whatever the case may be. And like, we don't really look at it, but we just talking on some real transparent shit. A lot of y'all really got mouths that, you know what I'm saying, is abusive, and nobody's gonna is not gonna say nothing, you know what I mean, or not gonna put it out there, but y'all be real slick out y'all mouth a lot of times. And sometimes, like I said, since we all deal with trauma, is for real, it's verbal abuse. Yes, it is. But a lot of times it's really carried over. It might not even be that you love a nigga to death and still be on some, you know what I mean, aggressive or loud shit. And it's like, that's not cool. You know what I'm saying? So that's a conversation that really needs to be had, you know what I mean, within our relationships too. Like, you know, it's not okay for you to feel like somebody should just accept, you know what I mean, just that loud, aggressive behavior when we trying to develop a, you know what I mean, environment that's conducive to love and caring and shit like that. You know what I mean? So, that's just one of the one of the
Yeah,
things.
but you also too, like, you can't just say women, because women are like that
Speaking from,
because men are like that. And that's the thing. You can dish it out, but you cannot take it. And you can't keep belittling a woman and then expect her to just, be cute in the corner and not say a word. After a while, listen, she coming out guns blazing. And listen, you either gonna shoot back or you gonna duck, because you can't dish it out to somebody and can't, you know what I mean, and can't handle it back and then say, women, y'all need to learn how to control what y'all say, being loud, being this, being that. Like, again, like, men can really say some real wicked stuff. And, at first it's like, we bite our tongue, we bite our tongue, we bite our tongue, we bite our tongue. And then after a while, it's like, oh, okay. All right, well, okay, all bets are off. Like, I asked you to not talk to me in that kind of way. I asked you to, be respectful of me, you know what I mean? And you don't carry me that way. So because you're not carrying me that way, you know what I mean, then now I got to carry you how you carry me. So it's not like a woman thing, you know what I mean? It's a us thing. And that's where the issue is, like I said, where you can't, nobody wants to take responsibility. Not saying that it makes it okay, because it's not, but it don't come from nowhere. Like, a woman is just not, I'm just gonna be disrespecting my man, like, I'm just gonna disrespect my man. No, like, no, men really be out here with a wicked tongue, like, just stabbing at you, and you be like, oh, 1, 2, 3. You gotta count. Walk away. Walk away. How many times you think a woman gonna walk away?
yeah. So
I'm
I'm talking about like well just to get to some of the comments. D said the tongue is a powerful weapon. Absolutely. Kia said verbal is worse. I go through it now. You know what I
mm,
mean? I feel you, Kia. You know what I mean? Um, you know, like we said, this is a good topic because a lot of times we don't always, put the spotlight on some of these other forms of abuse. You know what I mean? And that's real.
mm-hmm,
So what can we do? You know what I mean? What can we do? And I was talking about just people that um that are initiating it, that's coming off. I'm not talking about somebody that's, either defending themselves or in the heat of a discussion or whatever like that. I'm talking about like, women that are just aggressive, naturally, that are aggressive, on a regular basis. They don't even have to be just like initiated. So, but I see what you're
you
saying though. Jen,
you said women though. I'm just saying.
yeah.
I'm just
No, I'm
speaking
just
from the
speaking from.
standpoint of what you said. You said women, and just as you said, where um women just right off the back, men are right off the back as well. So it's like it's either going to be a general thing or it's going to be a man or a woman thing. And you said women, so I'm saying I know that men come right off the back all aggressive and just because I am the man attitude and taking advantage of the
Obviously,
situation of
what did I
the
tell you?
vulnerable woman.
Go ahead.
And then as soon as she like, oh, okay, all bets are off, then it's like, oh, you know who you talking to, watch your mouth, you this, you that, you this, you that. So I mean, I think it's a general thing.
Yeah, I'm talking about, from women personally, that's transparent, that's not trying to, have a debate about who does this or who does that. I'm talking about women that admit on their own, like, yo, my mouth is I gotta work on my mouth. You know what I mean? I don't hear guys, talking about they have to work on their mouth. A lot of times, that's just, what I've been hearing. I don't necessarily hear, girls say his mouth is crazy or whatever the case may be. But that's some of
What
the.
you mean? It's in the comments.
No, it didn't say. It just said it says verbal abuse, and it just said the tongue is, is a
No.
vicious weapon type.
D said if women were physically strong as a whole, we would be knocking y'all shit loose. But most of us aren't, and when you combine that with lack of communication skills, all hell break
Mm,
loose. They did. It's in the
yeah,
comments.
I'll just yeah.
And somebody said, D, I agree with man. D, you got that right, is what somebody said.
Okay,
And then also Kia, so does emotional and mental. They all take a toll on you. They
true.
break you down in the worst way. You eventually have to choose you.
Mm-hmm.
Men definitely have crazy mouths too.
Verbal abuse makes you hate yourself and feel less of a person. That's deep,
Damn.
yeah. That's definitely deep. I agree.
Come
Then,
on, bro.
then,
Hi.
then talk to
Talk to you.
what's
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, scammers.
you already scamming from the rip.
Hi, Jenny.
Instagram flagged me when I tried to put "Hey scammers" in the comments. Talking about some this word looked like it's been used and flagged. I'm like, come on, go to sleep.
They ain't play. You know they ain't
They
playing.
got you.
Um, huh?
Yo,
What
Yeah, they tried to.
Hey, bro.
All right,
what up,
so
though?
how I feel. I feel like most of the time you may not realize you are on the defense until something gets heightened.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
I think that abused people abuse. I think that it go back so far as um, the beginning. I know a lot of people may not link the two together, but you talking about. I like to just talk about our race because that's the one I'm trying to fix. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I mean, I like everybody else, but whatever. But I feel like um, um, over time we've been giving birth to families under trauma. So you go through something, and then you think that if you have a kid, get married, and find some form of success that is supposed to substitute the issues, but the issues end up bubbling over. They go unresolved, and then they get born into the next generation. And it's another generation of unresolved issues. And then you just have groups of people that don't know how to do anything but yell and blow up at each other because they feel so much and don't really have the vocabulary to express how they feel. And sometimes you can become so overwhelmed that you don't talk. You just hit, or um, just you're always a brute. You can't try to hear anybody else's point because the only one that exists is yours. So everything is always a fight, and you never agree with me, and it's always this. It just becomes very sickening and insidious. I think that some people who are like that don't even realize they're abusive, and then maybe they do and they just don't care because they like to ride that line of, oh, that's just how I am. Well, you can undo how you are. You just have to be willing, and some people may be aware of how they are, but they just don't care to change. They don't really care how it affects the people that they come in contact with, but they want good energy and they want positive exchange, but they don't do nothing but bleed negative energy because of their own state. And I was talking to my brother. I'm always talking to my brother. I told him to get on this live. I'm about tired of him not, because the conversations that we have be so deep, but I feel like, and I have talked to some males who have been abused in very specific ways. And it takes a lot to even talk about those types of things. And as a result, them coming to the conclusion of what the root of their anger, help them overcome some things and become a little more mellow and realize why they act the way they did. And so understanding what your issue is, like, you can become your own resource to figuring out your problem when you do that. Because really, when you deal with so much anger and you become abusive, the only person that can change you is you. It's nothing anybody else can do. We could sit here having a conversation from now to 12 o'clock. If the person isn't willing to see what effect that they've had on others is really doing, then, or how they contribute to issues, then nothing is really going to change. They're going to meet another group of people. It's going to be the same shit. Like, it's not going to change. So, and then having this back and forth fight, whether it's men or women, or it's both. Everybody has dealt with abuse of some sort. You either put up a boundary once you realize that it is what it is, because some people are in denial. No, that's not abuse. They was just mad. No, it's just cyclical and happening over and over again. It's a cycle of abuse. I don't care how many excuses you give it, or if you say, "Oh, they just act like that every now and then." It's the every now and then cycle. It's still something that they're willing to do. Like, you can't do anything but omit anger. Like, not omit. Like, what's the word I'm looking for that sound like omit? I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Got you.
All right, but like, it's too much. Like, it's
question, Jen. So, let me ask you a question, because it's so deep, because a lot of us are in relationships, and we all thinking is the opposite person, but, like, it's like we all need some form of either counseling or some form of unlearning some of the toxic traits and things that we kind of learn coming up. So how do you exist in, a new relationship, when you yourself, not talking about you personally, but when you yourself needs to work on things too, you know what I'm saying?
I think that if people were more grateful of the connections that they have, and understand that when you meet somebody that's kind of you can build something with,
Fred, I
and
want.
they may be bringing it to your awareness that they recognize this and that. That's like a form of grace, you know. And a lot of people get offense on a defense
Mm-hmm.
and get offended when you point something out about them that's negative that they've been exhibiting for years.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said anything to them about it, so they don't feel wrong.
Yeah.
But then if you tell them it's an issue, it's
Mm-hmm.
an automatic pushback. And then now the person that you found to be a resource, you arguing with them. Like in real life, I am literally going through this right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm very open about the stuff that I be going through. So it's like, it's so frustrating because you can see how to help, but like I said, the person has to be willing. And then you also got to recognize where you are. Like, wanting somebody to just, take on how you are, knowing that you need to work on a lot of things is very selfish. You just want like a dumping ground. That's not fair. And one thing I realized is parenting plays a huge part in how these things play out. I have been working, right? My younger two homeschool. But I'm very in tune with my kids. So the younger two that homeschool, my youngest one, the one I call Grandpa, I just felt like he needed a hug. I felt like he had so much on him. I don't know. I was getting dressed. He just popped into my head so strong. I called him in my room. He probably thought he was getting in trouble. But I called him in my room, and I just said, "Come here." And when I hugged him, the way his arms just around me, like both of us just started crying. I feel like moments like those are where a lot of men need nurturing as children and may not get it because their mother's frustrated. I'm frustrated, but I also had to understand where I need to be for them. And my
Look,
frustration is not the
it's like
only thing that
I
matters.
want you.
Huh?
I want to get the rest of this. I'm gonna get Fred so he can chime in a little bit on some of the stuff you said and on the topic too. Jen, this is
I
another
need to
one of
straighten my.
this
Hold on.
one of my loudmouth brothers. You know what I mean? That's
Go
in
on.
why I go.
What up, though?
What up, though? Let's get your take on some of the conversation you've been hearing. You know what I
I
mean?
came in kind of in the middle.
Okay.
What was the original premise that was being made? I got a lot of it I agree with, but what was like the original statement or premise that was being made as far as what was being commented on?
Yeah. So the topic is the different types of abuse that get downplayed, which is mental, emotional, and verbal abuse. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we just think about the physical abuse that goes on in relationships, you know what I mean? But we don't always talk about, or sometimes they get overlooked, the mental, emotional, and verbal. So we kind of went into like a little bit of women being loudmouth, you know what I'm saying, and having that mouth that, comes in the house loud, you know what I'm saying, aggressive. Men, you know what I'm saying, with the, having been, you know what I'm saying, divisive with words and things of that nature. And we kind of went on in on that side of things and a few other things.
I think just in order of operation of what you just said, physical probably gets spoke about more because it's what we see. You can't. It's very hard to sometimes see somebody being mentally abused or spiritually abused or whatever. Not that it doesn't exist. It's just hard to see. You can see when somebody gets physically abused. Somebody else can see it, so it's probably going to be the most talked about subject to the outside. Probably not for the relationship people. They probably talk about the mental beat down, the physical beat down. They talk about all of those because those two have to go through that. But for the outside looking in, the most they can probably see, the biggest they can see is definitely going to be the physical for that aspect. I think, I think a lot of different things. And I think also it's like me and you talk a lot. So, me and you, we always get to the mountain together, but we climb it differently. You know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna see each other at the top, but it ain't no damn way we taking the same elevator. It just never happens. It don't never work
No,
that way.
it's done.
But we're gonna get to the top of the mountain together and gonna high five when we get there.
Absolutely.
But either
Absolutely.
you gonna take the steps and I'm gonna take the elevator, vice versa. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So I say that to say a lot of times, even when I read back to your opinions, you know, I don't say they're wrong, but I can clearly see where you're coming from versus where I'm coming from sometimes. You see what I'm saying? Your environment produces some of your comments. That doesn't make them wrong. It's just I'm not in your environment. So if I'm not in your environment, it's really hard for me to always have an opinion the way you do. I'm going to see it differently because I'm looking outside differently. You're looking outside of my environment differently. So it's not that always that. And even when we talk, I don't never use the word wrong. I use like, oh, okay, I can agree to this, but I don't agree to this based on this. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, as far as the abuse goes, I don't understand to this day, and speaking for myself, I don't understand the longevity with anybody being abused. Probably minus the most obvious thing, which is fear. If it wasn't fair, I don't personally. I'm not saying there isn't reason. I'm not saying that anybody isn't rightfully a victim at all. I'm not saying any of those things. If you ask me personally, I don't understand it because I have not walked through that fear of not being able to walk away. I do understand, obviously, it is a tough and a difficult thing to do for men and women for that matter. I do think that based on what she was saying, a lot of the stuff she was saying was very spot on, at least as far as how my opinion feels as far as people go. You have got to not dump your baggage on people. You have got to, but the thing about also, one of the things is maturity. When you're trying to grow with somebody, if you're not quite there, somebody's got to be mature enough to eat the wrongs and wear the rights at the same time. Because like she was bringing myself personally, I learned a lot in my relationship because I thought one way, and then I may talk to somebody who isn't one way, and it's like, damn, a lot of this shit makes sense. So the shit that you was thinking, now you have to you ain't got to throw it all away, but now you got to kind of park it and see, damn, let's put this together with this together to see if this makes some sense. Because what I thought truly made sense in my motherfucking brain. But now this shit makes a lot of sense, a lot. So now it's not longer who's right or wrong. It's now how do I mesh these, because some of it I'm going to have to give up. Some of my thinking I'm going to have to give up. And some of the stuff I'm going to have to address to the opposite person. Like, yo, this is where I have a problem with. But all that comes with maturity, like she was saying. Like, it's hard to be immature and have that conversation because you do run into those people that say, I ain't got time for that. I ain't talking about that today. Oh, no, never mind. I said what I said. All that shit right there, it's hard to get through with all that kind of talk. With that I said what I said, period, and I'm not saying that those are bad slangs, and I'm not judging nobody. I'm saying then it's hard because the person who is trying to talk now is also getting fueled up by that. How you coming off at them. Now you like, what? You said what you said. Like, what? Like, now the message is getting ready to get lost. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely try my best to, when I can see somebody losing the message or for something that wasn't really intentionally said, I try to reel it back in, because that's when somebody getting ready to take it somewhere else. Like, yo, so you made 9 points. The 1 point you slipped in, motherfucker, want to hold on to that one. I'm like, yo, now you said his hair was white. No, you said his hair was. I was like, yo, hold on. That wasn't even that wasn't the title. That wasn't even the really biggest. But because we so lost, guess what? Now you fighting over the most minute point. And even me and you get into that. Like, we have a really big point, but then the minute point we fighting over because it's just about the win. And, like I said, the maturity of us is 20 years of being doing that. Nobody's ever got to a point where it's been a disrespect level. It's just, okay, all right, I got to move on. You know what I'm saying? Certain battles you're just not going to win. You got to move on. And again, that's what man and woman, and it's harder to do so when you with somebody every day. We can do so because I don't see you every day. I can give you a space. You know what I'm saying? When you're with somebody 24 hours a day, that space becomes harder to say, you know what? All right, I'm going to give you some breathing room, because you really just can't leave your significant other for 2 days to get breathing room. You know what I'm saying? So you got to figure out how to work through it a lot quicker. And, that just takes maturity. It's not easy.
I'm going to tell you one of the most interesting things to do. One of the most interesting groups to watch is white people. Yo, it's so crazy. You know what I mean? And, like, I was on a production, and it was a white girl she was basically um, a part of the budget. So this is a it was a film production, and she was just spending this money from the executive producer who basically was funding the budget. It was her job to like get certain things that they needed. You know what I mean? But it was his money. You know what I mean? But she was, ultimately in his eyes being real frivolous. Like, you buying stuff, you're not bringing no receipts. Like, you know what I mean? This is 10,000 for this, 5,000 for this. Like, where's the receipt? You're not keeping up with the books. Like, what's up? He put her on blast pretty much in front of the whole, pretty much half of the production. And so we all in there acting like we not hearing this, but he's pissed off. And so he's breaking down everything to this girl, like, who does that? Why would you think it's okay for you to take my card and purchase things without even either getting my okay on it, or at least document it and sending me, you know what I mean, and sending me invoices of what's going on. And the crazy part about it is she just sat there and listened to him. And some of her responses, she explained certain things and she was wrong, but I'm like, damn, if they was black, right or wrong, she'd have been like, hold up, first of all, you ain't gonna be calling me out in front of everybody on this motherfucker. Like, I ain't your child. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like and it was so interesting, and it went on for about a good 8 minutes. And 8 minutes is a long ass time of like somebody just like putting people on blast. And I'm like, damn, they just sat back, and at the end it was more so like, we got to do better. And I was like, wow, for us in our relationships, it's rare that we're not defensive when we're having these type of conversations. Even like you said, with you and I, you know what I mean, we'll have a conversation, might get caught up on a little thing, and sometimes get derailed from all of the other big things that we have understanding on. So I think our communication, you know what I'm saying, it leads to emotional and mental abuse in itself.
Because you got to realize, hold on, the one thing you cleared up that you started off with was the white folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, unless we talk about poverty-stricken trailer park trash white folks, typically white folks don't have the same stress that we got on our back every single day. So the level of pop-offtivity is like at a 9 for every black person. You know what I'm saying? Like, they always walking with it at a 9. Like, you can literally breathe too hard around a black person at the wrong time of the day, and that's enough to say, nigga, I told you not to be around. You see what I'm saying? So in your scenario with that white lady, everything is different. Let's be clear. I will definitely say that. Just, even with your opinion on that, for me, that was more based on the black women that maybe you felt like that might affect. But I do think that in that scenario, depending on how much you get paid, certain people, when they're wrong, sit back and say, all right, time to shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Now, some people don't. That don't mean it's a white or black thing, because for one, it could have been a black man in charge, and the white ladies that we call Karens, they just get crazy because you're a black person in charge and they ain't taking that. I mean, it could have went a million different ways. It just so happened to go that way, and you're in that world, and there's no right or wrong about that. But it could have. Again, all of us probably have a different experience in those same scenarios that could have said, I don't know if it would have went like that. Quite, I mean, it just you never know. But the ultimate thing about that is the stress level that colored people walk around with. But so when you say, why aren't we as patient and as communicative, is because we don't go home to $500,000 homes and eat everything we want and do everything we want. So we're struggling day to day, strapped day to day. So all the stress and pressure from black man and woman is so intense that, if you don't communicate what's deemed to them, which sometimes means you got to kiss their ass, because at this point, I'm so pissed, anything can piss me off. My kid just got suspended. I just got my life cut off. And you talking about what? Nigga, see what I'm saying? You don't know that's what's going on in their brain, but in their brain, they holding it down. You sing Bernie Mac, nigga, I ain't doing shit today.
I ain't come here to work.
I ain't doing shit today.
I ain't come here to work.
You know what I mean? How you gonna be a boss and talk to an employer? Excuse me. How you gonna be a boss and talk to an employer that is saying they ain't really wanting to work? And how many black people that including me and you, that walked into work and said, I'm not working today?
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's really, we already at a level that is so high and intense that it's really hard to deal with any black people. Like, you really got to deal with black people on the eggshell. It really, unfortunately, it is the truth. Like, you really almost got to, because you do not know what's going on in a household. And not to say that doesn't affect the same thing on white folk, because obviously they're doing the most mass killing. So obviously there's some destructive shit going on over
Ain't
there as
that
well. So
crazy?
you can't just walk up on them willy nilly either, because they're taking out more people at a time than we are. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean. You gotta just kind of respect everybody's thoughts. Keep your motherfucking eyes open, because you know, for me, to your point, for me, I think more other, and even crazier is we don't even have a race. Like you know what I mean? Like you can really say Asians, you can really say Indians, you can really say Africans, you can really say Europeans. Like me used to talk about the other day about the NBA, and I'm like, yo, niggas is bitching about the white guys, but one nigga is fucking South African, one nigga is Ukrainian, and one nigga is German. Don't none of them consider themselves white. You know what I'm saying? For real. But as black people, like whatever we are called, black is just a color, but whatever we are, we walk around, especially American black, we walk around with so much on our shoulders because there's nobody that defended us, man or woman. Even, you know, you could pick which day who's worse. I mean, yeah, between the four of us, I'm sure the women gonna say it's the women. Between both of us, I'm sure we can argue the men. But it's fair enough to say every other fucking day we flip flop who's the lowest on this motherfucking total pole. You know what I'm saying? Some day it'll be us, some day it'll be y'all. I'm willing to admit, you know what I'm saying, for sure, that we flip flop on that motherfucker. You know what I mean? Nobody protecting us, nobody love us, nobody got our back. We ain't got no bills, we ain't got no we don't get shit. You know what I'm saying? You can say nigga on this live 19 times. You cannot disrespect Asians or gays on this live at all. You see what I'm saying? There's protection. So without no protection, you walking vulnerable, and then you're pissed off
Right.
because you're vulnerable. And we walk around pissed off a lot, being so vulnerable.
Yes.
And it
Yep.
affects your friendship relationship, your girlfriend relationship, affects your kids relationship, the stress. I mean, imagine being really released the slave back in the day when they first realized they were unslaved, but who was so used to being a slave for so long, the communication, the relationship they had with wives and kids and anybody else, it was terrible. How could you have a good relationship if you was a slave for 10 years and then they just freed you and now you got kids? What could you possibly, like, how could you hold on to something?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? How could you really give some real strong advice when all you do notice to be whooped? Like, you survived. You're the probably strongest
Yeah.
people out of those crews were the ones that said, I just survived. That was a strong thing. But the rest of them is like, nigga, you gonna get whooped, you gonna get raped, you gonna do everything I got. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's been passed down for, we talked about that earlier, that's been passed down for how long? So
Yeah.
we're looking at, when you're looking at kids getting, you know, I'm not condoning anything, but molested, raped, and all this shit. Come on, man. This is people. What book was taught that? You don't learn that. You can't learn that. You know, educated. Why you learned that passed down from something? Watching
That's the
something that
abuse I was talking about.
that you
That's
allowed that
exactly
to
the
happen.
abuse I was
So now
talking about.
you're not doing anything abusive in your mind because you know that that's what. It's like a boxer getting punched 100 times. You think what did they say? Come on, hit me one more time. I'm like, nigga, hold on, I just punched you 100 times.
Right.
Like, you don't even know you being
Here's the
abused. I
thing,
just punched you 100 times.
Yeah.
Nigga, come on, one
but
more. Like,
self
yo, all
sabotage is a
right.
form of
I can't
abuse
fight this.
too.
You know what I'm saying? Certain motherfuckers you can't fight. I can't beat them. That nigga punched him 100 times. He won
Like,
101.
yeah,
So
they like to get punched. That's a different joint. That's what I was talking about. You know what I mean? Understanding the level of toxicity the person that you dealing with has too, because there's levels of that joint. And sometimes, like you said, if I'm about to get into a fight and a nigga get into a karate stance, you know what I mean? Then hold up, you know what I mean? You hold up now, you know what I mean? Now,
right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like,
I just talking about whooping some ass. You
hold.
doing some other
You got
shit.
a whole other level of, you know what I mean? Technique
Yeah.
that you're trying to display. We just
Right.
going, yeah, I'm gonna just pull his thing out and I'm gonna tell you go ahead on your
Right.
I'm gonna get him out like that. But like Jim was saying, that self sabotage. A lot of this stuff that we engage in, you know what I mean, is mental, emotional, and verbal abuse. You know what I mean? Like I was saying earlier, just a simple conversation can turn into a manipulative situation. Like you could just be having a dialogue, and that dialogue now turns into a debate, and that debate turns into an argument, and it's like, like just not having, you know what I mean? And I'm not comparing us to down us when I say like observing how, you know, some white people communicate. It just was kind of like, it was funny because it was like, damn, ain't no aggression coming up in this motherfucker. Like, that's funny as shit. Like, I'm like,
well,
damn.
also you got to factor. That's why I said about the money, because the man wasn't complaining about the money. He was complaining about the respect level. The black person would have been complaining about the money, and rightfully so. Like, hold on, $10,000 going the guy. I got this. Because I mean, it's on a credit card. You can document it. That couldn't have been the argument. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell me you can't find your money. I spend it on your credit card. You just go to the billing statement. This is very simple. You know what I'm saying? But what he was pretty much trying to do was trying to throw his weight around, but it wasn't about money. So she understood, from what it sounded like, she understood, oh, well, maybe I didn't ask, which was the point he was making. So anybody that didn't do that probably should keep their mouth kind of closed. You know what I'm saying? You would be wrong, white, black, Asian, green, blue, if you spent something without telling somebody. You can't tell me I can't find the money because I spent it on your credit card. It's fine. You know what I'm saying?
In terms of our culture, niggas will find a way to justify poor behavior. You know what I mean? Even in that case, a nigga could be dead ass wrong. Like, bro, you know what I mean? I gave you the credit card. You know what I mean? The least you could do is let me know what's going on. Like, people, we really got some delusional ways, and I'm not excluding myself. You know what I mean? Like, we all got our little shit where you really can. Sometimes you gotta really talk to yourself and be like, yo, like, honestly, like, am I, like, you know what I'm saying? Maybe this is me. Like, sometimes you really got it, because you can justify so much shit. Because she could have been like, listen, you gave me the car for a reason. I'm not here to be micromanaged about stuff that we really need. If you're busy and you have things going on, I'm not going to interrupt you every single time I go to get, you know what I mean, a $10 pencil case or whatever the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, people got those ways, and that's where, you know, for us, we can always, we go there at times, and just our communication is what I'm saying is a form of mental, emotional, and verbal. And I'm just sometimes basic communication can turn into, it can just turn and elevate into something that it shouldn't even been. Like, you could be agreeing with a motherfucker. You could be agreeing with a motherfucker, and they got to debate their side of it a certain way. You like, bro, like, I'm agreeing with you. Like, we on the same page.
I'll say
so.
It is. If since so many black people are poor, even the rich ones, like, I mean, like the richest celebrities that we know have like $2 billion. I mean, they got cats that got 40 and 50 billion. So I'm only saying this to say the richest people that we know, right? If you're not mentally free, meaning like, if your freedom in your mind, this maturity level shit we talking about is not going to stick with people. It really is not, because you really can't. That's why I use the analogy for slave, because like I bring the same analogy up every time I talk to people. If you watch the movie The Django, when Jamie Foxx, who was the free man, walked up to them white people who were free, the only people that looked at him like he was crazy was the slaves. How crazy is that? The white man reached out and said, "Let me give me the benefit of the doubt." The white man's goons shut the fuck up and waited for the benefit of the doubt. Everybody waited for the benefit of the doubt. The only ones who were looking ready to hurt that man was the slave. And that the analogy is used to this day right now. When you're a free person, one of y'all is a free person walking by, it's most likely the slave-minded motherfucker want to take you out before any other free-minded colored person around, white, black, blue, green, or whatever. When you're walking and talking with your head held high as a free person, you are talked to different. The people, the body language, it's hard for me to always really recognize what people go through, because I walk and talk so freely. I do not get talk, and I do sometimes, let's get it clear, but it ain't as much that other people go through. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm walking with a level of like, nigga, you better know you talking to the free one here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't make you talk to everybody like that, but for sure when I walk through this motherfucker, you need to recognize that for sure. So with that shine, I don't really ever, for the most part, get talked to as if I'm like less than what I'm supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? There's times that it happens for sure, but it's a small amount. With a mind that's slave minded, and I'm not pointing anybody out. I'm not saying one thing does that to make you a slave. You know what you are if you're not free. You know what it is. If your mind is not wrapped on freedom, you know what it is. I'm not saying that because you work or there's this. There ain't no one thing that makes you a slave minded, in my opinion, no more. I used to think that it was one thing, but no longer do I feel like that. Slave-minded is strictly about your mind, and based on that will always cause the fights, the bad conversation, all of that, because like you just said, a free person, before they finish losing their freedom, they say, let me fucking think. Free people do not mind risking their freedom for something that is worth risking their freedom. They're not getting ready to risk the freedom all over every single time over some bullshit, because they know how hard it is to be a slave-minded person. When you beat that shit, nigga, there's no reason to go back over the dumbest shit. Now, if you go over for your wife, if you going over for your kids, for your mama, yeah, them free people will lose their freedom for that, absolutely. But nigga, because you damn stepped on my shoes, dog, go on and get the fuck out of my way. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be mad for a second, but this ain't getting ready to hold my day down. You know what I'm saying? This it really ain't. You know what I'm saying?
One of our toxic traits, and I want you to chime in on this, Cherie or Jen. One of our toxic traits, and I think this, you know what I'm saying, really can hold us back to a certain degree. I want to say is like our pride and our respect. So, you know what I mean? Regardless to what you saying to me, and almost back to that situation, whether you right or wrong, you better respect me. If I feel disrespected, fuck all of that credit card talk, fuck all of that, this, that, and the third. So I think sometimes, yeah, that pride and respect thing can be a toxic trait in a certain way. How y'all feel about that?
I agree. I feel like I just experienced this, right? Where I had to, sometimes in the middle of a conversation that's turning into an argument, when you're the person that knows better, I feel like if you know better, it's automatically your responsibility to put some things out on the table. So I stopped in the middle of the conversation, feeling it getting heightened. I said, let me explain something to you. I'm a person that wants to be respected, so that's how I approach every conversation. If I say something that triggers you, you can just say that without being completely disrespectful towards me. Because when you say something and you start personally attacking somebody, you, like y'all was saying earlier, you get away from the point of the conversation, and it becomes an argument of how you're talking to me, and then everything gets lost. And so that's when your ego really starts to, your ego comes up to protect you, but then it's coming up to protect you in a way where it wasn't even necessary for it to get here. And then it's blown out of proportion. The disrespect becomes the glaring thing, and now it's like I can't even have a simple conversation because it turns into this, because you can't hear X, Y, or Z. But if I say to you, I would appreciate if you talk to me in a certain tone, because that's how I talk to you, and you can't even reel it back, and you just keep going and you know, because you got so much to let off. That's an issue. That's a huge issue, and that's what I think we keep running into, because again, when you carry so much anger and you don't have the words to say how you feel, you're not defining your moments, even your worst ones. And you can't get through them if you can't find a word. You can't tell something what to do if you can't name what it is. So it's like it's an internal struggle, and a lot of people become the you know, like the needleboard or the donkey board for other people's issues, because they don't know how to do anything but be harsh. So yeah, I think it's a huge problem.
And
that unloading come from that stress of every day. Like, just to say I 100% agree with her, because what she's saying is adding on to what I was saying. You can only unload on somebody if you got a lot on your fucking back. You see what I'm saying? Like, to your point about white people, they typically, not saying all, but, and not even gonna just keep saying white, be honest with you, it's really about a wealthy thing. So, because there are black wealthy people, so what I'm gonna keep just giving it to white folks, because that excludes wealthy Asians, Africans, and everything else. Usually, the less wealthy have the more stress. That's usually, not saying that wealthy people don't have stress, but usually the more stress, the tidbit stress, the tit for tat stress, the everyday shit, waking up at 7 when they didn't feel like it, got to go to kids practice and school and this, and don't get to eat and get the shit at the night, and got to wake up, and you know, all the other small shit that come with the everyday working man shit. Even no matter, you can be making 200,000, you still every day working man. You making 400,000, you still everyday working man. Here into a world now that where 10 million is the starting point. You see what I'm saying? So like 500,000, you still got to get up and work beyond what you want to do. That kind of stress all the time is what you, at least what I was hearing from what she was saying. Like, that's how you get unloaded on. Like, yo, it's not just this one. Like, it wasn't just this argument that you got unloaded on. The art, because really, for real, usually once somebody get their quick yell, they done. It's, you know, because that's how trivial it is. Like, yo, I done yelled. I'm really done with this. I ain't even tripping no more. But I got so much more. That's why you'll hear people start bringing up old stuff like, yeah, plus my mama died yesterday, and this happened the other day, and I got sniped the other day, and I can't work. Yeah, it's like, yo, what I got to do with this conversation? You know what I'm saying? But I understand, because you're getting unloaded on from a lot of stuff that is like, yo, I'm built up right now. You didn't know I was built up, but now you do know. You know what I'm saying? Now you know.
So let me ask you a question. So on that tip, and that's interesting, you know what I mean, that you said that, because I've unloaded on somebody, you know what I mean, before, and I always use this example. It just made it literally like brought the sunlight out, you know what I'm saying? Because it was stuff that I was holding on to, and I didn't really, share it. And I just, kept it inside, you know what I mean? And I finally just, I guess it was snapped to a certain degree, you know what I mean? Or not even snapped. I just was given the opportunity to just like, you know what I mean, to express myself and just like unload. And that joint was the best thing ever, you know what I mean? So like in your case, in your instance, you know what I mean, just in terms of the household, we all got stuff going on, you know what I mean? Both of us are entrepreneurs, you know what I mean? And, if we don't hunt, we don't eat, you know what I mean? So every day is a grind, like what's some of the things that you do in your household? Because, just being at the crib, and ain't nobody perfect and nothing like that. So I ain't trying to give that off. But what's some of the things that you do, you know what I mean, that kind of works for you in the household? Because when I'm over there, everything is pretty much tranquil. Y'all got y'all, routines, you know what I'm saying, at the crib and everything like that. And like y'all have
the word you said is what it is, and and to be fair about it, that really came from me and you. I mean, honestly, like, I won't give you all the credit because some of it was mine too, but I will give the fact that the way we had to sharpen skills from the age of like 14 or 15, it literally just sticks with me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what happened was when I got into a real relationship, it made me a competitor, which that was end up being wrong, because I was like, damn, I'm competing. I'm really trying to say, why you not doing this like me? Because of what we had going on. But it was a different thing. It was like, yo, no matter what, we want the best. Same thing here. Just like, it was hard to explain that I was always competing. And this is what I recognize about myself. Nobody told me this. Is what I was like, damn, you're comparing what you do good to why your significant other, to why my girl not doing good. You see what I'm saying? Like, that was really hindering me comparing that, because it's like, why are you doing? I couldn't answer it for myself. So to answer what you just said, the routine of me doing what I can control. Even when I'm having bad days, I got to get up and go work out every day, because it just does something for my brain. I got to eat certain routes, because if I don't eat right, it's going to do something to my body. I got to put certain spiritual shit in my soul, because if not, then I won't be good to nobody else. And the days that I don't do that, which I try not to share as many days that don't do that, it's really bad. But the days that I've trained to do everything else. It's like really being in the army, and it's not easy. You really got to get up and really do the same shit every day to almost be a robot and be sane at the same time. Certain shit gives you sanity. Peaceful walking. And I don't mean intense walking. I mean, you could just be walking. You see what I'm saying? Just walking, just getting some peace of mind, listening to certain shit, putting certain shit into your brain at some point into the day. That shit right there really keeps you on sanity when days you fucked up. Financially, if you fucked up, guess what? Spiritually, if you fucked up, guess what? If you ain't got nothing else to hold on to, you got to hold on to the routine that makes you fucking happy. And you got to figure out what your routine is. And a lot of times we break our routine because of shit, because of life gets in the way, because the kids get in the way, because work gets in the way, because mortgage gets in the way. Very viable reasons. I'm not saying we don't. But just for as much as we break that shit, we got to figure out how to get back in that routine and do the shit that we know is for our chakras, mental, physical, spiritual, education, and financial. You see what I'm saying? If those five are in a line, or when they are aligned, you feel like you floating. When one is missing, you hurting in some kind of way. And two or three are missing, you really hurting. You see what I'm saying? Now you trying to compensate for one. You see what I'm saying? Like, damn, I ain't been as faithful as I was supposed to been, as far as my spirits go, and I ain't making no money. You know what I'm saying? Yet I'm getting smarter and I'm eating healthier. It's now you compensating. You can't get it together. So for what people see from outside in our household, it's just people who keep on trying the routine over and over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, it just, that's it. You know what I mean? That shit is hard. And again, I say that it happens 365 days. It just happens more than less. You know what I'm saying?
So, with that being said, all right, so our topic is the other forms of abuse, which is mental, emotional, and verbal. You know what I mean? One of the things that I've noticed with this conversation is that we're pretty much expressing the fact that just as a culture, you know what I mean, just as Black people in our community, a lot of us are dealing with a lot of different stresses. That's been one of the common denominators in this conversation from the beginning, that we have our, stresses, whether it's from childhood, and sometimes they just don't stop. They just continue throughout adulthood. So when you're having a relationship, and here's where the conversation is kind of bending to, now what do you do to not be the abuser? Because being broke is a form of abuse too. You know what I mean? Dealing with a form of financial abuse. You know what I mean? If you broke, you know what I mean? Some of these other issues that we have are abuse, and how do we not hurt the person that we care about? So one of the things that I'm hearing is that we have to, constructive habits or something that helps relieve us, because we don't want to just feel all the activity on your mate, or partner, or who you try to get down with at the same time. So what are some things that you could do that help you to vent, help you to kind of de-stress, so you can be in a good balance with your mate. So Jim, what you say? Because you know what I mean, on your end, you know what I mean, just having, you got your boys, you know what I'm saying? You are heavily involved in what they got going on in their lives, you know what I'm saying? You grinding, you doing your thing, and then you still, Van, and you still, have to have your own social life, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, after everybody get taken care of, all the kids, you know what I'm saying? Now the grind is grinded, this and the third. Now I get home, I want to talk to me, my certain special somebody, you know what I mean? How do you not pass on some of the stresses you might have had either in your day or your life, childhood traumas? Or do you have certain things that you do, or is this something that you're working towards to help you in terms of like balancing yourself out? What are some things that, that you either do or are looking to do to help balance yourself out so you're not being that person?
It's both. It's everything, actually. It's not one thing more than the other, but it's me having to, like I was saying earlier, I had to learn that just how I feel and my frustrations aren't the only ones that matter. Because you give birth to kids, and I'm the mom that they going to deal with every single day. They have their own frustrations. I told y'all about the time where my son asked me, "Mom, am I doing a good job as an older brother, as the oldest?" Because he can't go to his dad and say, "Dad, am I doing a good job?" And it was disappointing to him. And I didn't know how to answer that question other than, "Yes, you are." But I knew what he needed. So I just talk to my kids so much that they know how to come to me. Even if my kids see that I'm upset and I'm trying not to lash out on them, like how you get mad, you just throwing shit and just put this over, like I'm just in my own head. One of my kids will come to me and be like, "Mom, just breathe, it's to the point now where I don't make it seem like they can't correct me. You understand what I'm saying? Just because you're a parent don't mean you know everything. They don't feel like they can't come to me if I'm upset or give her room to be mad. "Oh my gosh, she about to throw a ball through the window. Hold on, y'all." No. They can say, "Mom," or they can move out the way, or they'll text me, "Mom, you okay? Mom, you need a hug?" And then it helps me feel seen, because we're not going to act like that's not part of your human makeup. You want to feel seen and acknowledged by the people that you care about and that you're around the most. I don't care what position you hold as a child, the mother, the grandmother, the aunt, the uncle, it don't matter. You want to know that you have a support system. And so with me, I just, draw, paint, makeup, whatever. I have my artistic outlets. They're the same as they've always been. And I write. I do a multitude of different things, but I feel like communication is the biggest thing. It makes all of that, it helps all of that get back into a flow state, I should say.
And who do you?
Because if I'm just going off in a corner and being quiet and just doing something that will help just me, then to a degree that's selfish, because I'm only addressing me when there's 5 other versions of me in this house. And so it's not just one thing I'm doing, and sometimes I don't the hell even look. I just be moving through, trying not to deal with the stress, but shit.
So,
I mean,
so Sheree, what you feel about just in terms of like certain things to just to help to balance out, you know what I'm saying, the stresses that you have in terms of being a mother, working, and also having a grind and being an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And of course, just having your family and things of that nature. How do you kind of help to balance yourself out so you're not in a state where you projecting the stress that that you may go through on a daily basis?
Um, Honestly, I'm actually bad at it. Um, a lot of times I can find myself being depressed because I don't have that outlet like that. At least I don't feel like not the outlet that I want or how I want it to be. Um, but again, like, that all falls into, you trying to be somewhere in your life and you trying to get somewhere, you're trying to be established and things like that. So you lose that focus. So you lose yourself within that because you're so focused on everything else. I gotta make sure I gotta be a mom, I gotta be a wife, I gotta, be A1 at my job, I gotta be A1 at my business, and then you lose yourself in that. So for me, it's actually I'm horrible at that.
So what are
I
some
really
things
don't
that
have an
you want to
outlet.
do you think it's like anything, like, let's just say, forget everybody, forget the kids, forget your husband, forget the job, forget the business, you know what I mean? What are some things that Cherie would like to do that could take her mind and balance her spirit, just to kind of even out some of the daily stresses that you go through?
Mm, See, that's kind of hard too, because I would rather like my husband and being around my husband, being around my kids, like just feeling good where I'm at, feeling appreciated, feeling seen, things like that makes me feel good. When y'all happy, I'm happy. So when it's like if it's not shown that you're happy or you're not appreciated, then it's like it stresses me out, which is weird.
Transferable energy. Nah, like
Cause like if you don't care, like I never was like a materialistic, or I cared about what other people have or how they feel like life should be. I never cared about that type of stuff. But as long as my family is happy, I'm good. But then if it's like they don't seem like they're happy, it's like it stresses me.
it almost sometimes makes it seem like, damn, is it your fault that they not happy?
Exactly.
It's a tough
Yep.
cycle because it's like, damn, all right, what male or female interchangeable at this point in 2023 because of gender control. So I'm just saying male or female in this scenario. If one is like, okay, like I said, the chakras, because again, one may not be literally, one may be okay financially where they're at based on what their freedom means to one. You see what I'm saying? The other one is like, yo, we got to be here. Now, that frustration of not being here is wearing on the partner because the partner's like, damn, is it my fault we not there? Do you blame me for this not being there? Damn, what am I not doing? Why are we not all just happy like we supposed to be? Like, and it's really, again, and that's more of a I wanted to say earlier black and white thing, but it's kind of just more of a wealthy versus not
Money.
wealthy thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because wealthy, I don't feel like wake up with that. There's a different problem when you get to wealth. I'm not saying problems just drop off,
Right.
but those problems kind of fall to the side about the insecurity, those kind of things. Now you just have too much abundance of too many things when you get to the wealth part. But before you get to the wealth part, the insecurity of why are we not wealthy? Whose fault is it? Why are you not happy with where we at? What are you trying to get to? If everybody else is happy, what are you looking for to make happiness? When you get there, are you going to now forget about what So the brain is playing so many fucking tricks on that person. And again, the stem that it sounds like from everybody that's talked to, it really ain't got to do with the color, more to do with if I was financially there, we'd be, no matter what, it couldn't take me out my, can't nobody take me out of my zone because I'm there. You see what I'm saying? And we all like to feel like that. And a lot of times, just like you just said earlier, even when I feel, and I wake up every day begging for more. You know what I'm saying? But what I do realize is, at some point, is the higher caller saying you got to enjoy what you got to. Because if you keep letting that go, chasing something else, man, you're gonna miss on every little damn thing. And I always feel like that is what slows. That has what makes me get slow. Like, all right, if I can't work this week, because like you said, if you don't hunt, you don't eat. So if obviously you hunting all week and ain't got a lion, you ain't ate nothing all week. No matter how much damn you've been in them woods, you just ain't ate all week. Now, if you doing all that and still begging like, dang, God, how can I eat? How can I eat? And he's telling, that sounds like he's saying, nigga, just sit down. You got food at the house already. What are you still out here doing? You know what I'm saying? You got plenty of food at the crib. Why are you still trying to get next week's meal right now? You know what I'm saying? You trying to get next week's meal and you ain't even cooked this week. You ain't meal prep for this week at all. You ain't did nothing to make sure the house was did. You ain't. So now it's like, that's how I view it. Like, okay, damn, maybe that's what he's saying. Now you got like, all right, why you chase, maybe if you made more money this week, you may be going further distancing yourself from the family more and more. It could be very well viewed like that. I don't know. That's what my mind plays tricks on me like that.
Yeah.
So it's always my conscience eats me up to like, damn, is this not being, because it's not very rare that I don't get it to where I don't need to get, everything needs to be paid, and there's a whole lot of bills that got to be paid, and somehow or another they all, getting done. So it's not that is always being fell short. It's the more. And it's like, okay, well, I start thinking, damn, is the more you're actually spending that time with your family versus out there 80 more hours to maybe, like I said, if you hunt for 80 hours and don't come in, you still lost 80 hours with the entire family and did not feed them. And you still got antelopes in there from last week. You know what I'm saying? So it's that's how I feel. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's to everybody. I'm saying, damn, my conscience plays with me because the same way Sheree just said, you don't want to make the significant other feel like, damn, you just like going out there to hunt for food. Like, nigga, we got food in here. What you don't want to be in here? Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to give off that impression. And not saying that somebody is doing that. I'm just saying you really don't want to give up. Like she just said, you feel happy when being around makes you happy. That, you know what I'm saying? That's like, oh, okay, you just decided to be here all fucking day. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, that's a different type of, you know what I'm saying? He ain't really thinking like, damn, okay, he ain't make. Even though I be stressing, that's why you smoke. And that's another form of anxiety and everything. You know what I'm saying? But I understand, or at least I feel the reason I'm placed down is to make sure that you got enough time around the people that is really rooting for you. Ain't nobody else rooting for you but these people here for sure. That's a guaranteed fucking fact. You know what I mean? Won't nobody yell loud like them. There's gonna be some people that yell for you. You'll never get no loud yells like that. You know what I'm saying? That's a mistake or win.
I want to also, acknowledge the fact that, and just give you flowers on the tip that, nowadays, we talking about, the mental, emotional, and the verbal abuse. We also talk about, some of the traumas that we've went through, just black people, We also talk about our egos, our triggers, our pride, getting in the way of, or even being a part of that emotional, mental, and verbal abuse. Being triggered too easily. You know what I'm saying? So being in a space where you allow your pride or your ego to turn into, a toxic reaction or whatever the case may be. But I wanted to acknowledge the fact that in your household, you basically have it to where as though you all work together to get what has to be done. There is no real quote unquote gender role because you do all the cooking. You know what I'm saying? You do all the cooking. You pick up the kids and this, that, and the third. You know what I mean? So I commend you because you didn't allow ego, pride, or any of those other things that we struggle with in our community to get in the way of, getting the win. Right. It's about getting the win. You know what I mean? If I gotta grab the mop, if I got to mop the floor, if I got to sweep in the background, I don't always have to be in the front and have a microphone. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I'm motherfucker holding the lights for you, So I like
right. A lot of you know me more longer than most people in my life, you know what I mean? And one thing I ain't never been scared to do is be Scottie Pippen, so to speak. It don't matter who is Jordan right now. If some days we went to places you was Jordan, some days we places I was Jordan. It never really affected me who did that. Like, it's about the win. You know what I'm saying? Don't matter for me. And I was embedded with that long time ago. So when I got into a relationship, again, like I said, the initial point, or initially, I was like, damn, I'm competing, I'm yelling, I'm saying, why you can't do this? Then I'm realized, damn, in order to win, you just got to be better at what the other person ain't good at. There's a lot of things she's way better than me at. You see what I'm saying? Way better, way better. And I'm giving her
Yep.
all of that work. Oh, yeah, you can do all that. You got to do all that.
Yeah.
You feel me? You got to be with the kid all night long. You got to do all of this. Because I can't. I'm not as good. I can't control all the bills. I don't know where every single bill come out every day of the week like that. Nigga, license be off 2-3 times a month. You waiting for me. I mean, we get it back on, but I wouldn't know. I'm like, oh damn, today's the 16th. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some shit that I'm not very astute at, but I'm very good at other stuff, and I make sure that we're going to win on my side of me being great on those things. And you know, for sure, she does the same thing. That whatever it is on her side, that is just great on that. And again, there's going to be both things that we just okay at. But the shit that we really good at, it just makes sense to go ahead and be really good at that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it don't make no sense for somebody else to do it, or for somebody else to be mediocre at some shit that you want. That you know what you want to be good at. Certain shit you just want to be good. If you want to eat good and somebody is not doing it to your liking, then you got to do it. Shit, it ain't no other way around this shit. Ain't no nigga, you got to do it. But that's man or woman. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever it is, you ain't cleaning, cooking. If you ain't whatever it is, we talking about washing, whatever. Then you should go ahead and do it to the way that you like it to be done, and then just let that be. And that's really where it came to. We did have a come to a head with that a while, and it got to a point where I was like, damn, I didn't even know this would be this insane of a conversation, but it really was. And I took feelings for granted based on not thinking that would be that serious. So at that point, I said, well, just let me do what I do best. Then, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to do that. If you can do it, if you can't do it the way I'm doing it, then ain't no sense in doing it. Let's walk with this line. Ain't no sense in playing around with it. Ain't no sense in half-assing it, trying to fake it till you make it. Let's just not do it. I'm not a fan of faking it till you make it. I'm not a fan of half-assing it. Just let it go. You feel me? Because I'm not going to do that. I ain't going to half-ass shit. Whatever I can't do, you got 100% of got to do this shit. Now, when it comes to shit like kids, yeah, I got to do half my work. But anything else that is like man versus woman, and I can't do it, I'm not 50% in it. It's 0 from over here. So I don't really care about what you got going when yours is 0, because I'm going to put up 100. You see what I'm saying? It's 0 on certain shit. I'm going to be like, I don't know. What do you mean? Call what? Who? What do you mean they'll call the bill? I don't speak no English, but it come a whole lot of shit. You see what I'm saying? But the shit I speak English on, I'm fluent. You know what I'm saying? That's the best I can tell you. Because there's a lot of shit I can't do good. And I mean, obviously, if I had to do it, it'd get done. Like I said, the light might go off, but I'm going to get that motherfucker back on. I'll figure out who to call. You know what I'm saying? I'll borrow somebody's phone. We gonna have some lights by Friday. You know what I'm saying?
It's Sunday.
We'll be back on by Friday. Hold up now. You know what I'm saying? But Thursday night, everybody go to sleep early. You know what I mean?
Lights out, nigga.
But no, again, you gotta, and I think, like we were just saying, so many people spend that time hunting, you don't even recognize who your family is. So you're doing stuff for people that's not what they appreciate in the first place. You know what I'm saying? They don't really. And if you do have a family that is appreciative of more monetary things, then you do have to do those kind of things. You know what I'm saying? But you have to know you have to know your household, because for the most part, we're not even bringing in $1 million product things anyway. So you're going out there hunting for this fucking $100 shit. Like, nigga, you could have stayed right here and played a video game. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, this will be broke tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, this will be broke tomorrow. You could have sat right here and used your YouTube and gave 6 hours, and it would have been heaven. You know what I'm saying? So I have received that, in my opinion, for me personally, more than once, because I beat myself up. I smoke, I get anxiety, like, damn, I'm not making money, I'm not doing this. And every day it's like, yo, you're thinking about what happens 2 years from now. What about what happens today? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I fall into. I always fall into what happens next week. Yo, what happens tomorrow? You still got the bills next week. You got this coming up next week. You don't act like the bills is done. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm always thinking about that, I'm always living in the future, as opposed to what's going on right here. Like, yeah, my daughter just lost her first tooth. Imagine me being out all day, not making no money, and can't enjoy that. You see what I'm saying? That for me is where, like, oh, okay, this would be why God is saying, all right, you ain't making no money today. Because like you said, we're going to hunt. It's different when you have a job and somebody says, here you go, pay you, do that. But when you go out and have to go look, first thing to let people know as an entrepreneur, that does not mean because you go hunt, you go eat. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you go fight a bear. Sometimes you go fight you lose an antelope. Sometimes a giraffe whoop your ass. Man, you don't go eat every single time you go in that jungle. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be strong to eat every time to go in that jungle. It take a lot to come back and eat and provide for everybody, and then do it again the next day. So that's what, that stress from a male point of view, not to say women don't have that same thing, but I'm speaking because I am a man. That's a lot of time what you're seeing from us, what we're giving off. And especially, like you said, entrepreneurs, we're giving off the vibe of, man, we've been out here all week and we didn't eat. How about that? How embarrassed are we? We've been out here all week and didn't eat. Embarrassed, to say the least. You know what I'm saying? How am I telling the person I'm trying to feed, I've been gone all day, but I ain't got nothing to give you. I'm embarrassed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not distraught. I'm not about to kill myself, but I'm embarrassed. I ain't got, what the fuck? I've been out here all week, ain't nothing happened. So now I got to go through that. Now I got to look at the kids and do this. Now I got to eat less. Now I got to start eating, when y'all not around, quick little dollar burger. You know what I'm saying? Like I got to figure out what it is, eating rabbits in the jungle as opposed to bringing a whole antelope home. You know what I'm saying? So if those kind of things right there is what produces men's anxiety, which also produces a lot of our bad communication because we're mumbling this stuff inside, we're holding it, we're talking to ourselves, and again, therapy is what should and can help a lot of people because just like Sheree was saying, no outlets. Okay, when you talk to some people you love, you might even realize straight face to face to them, like, damn, you can't talk to me, and it's like, damn, I didn't even know that. You see what I'm saying? This is something that I recently learned. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, maybe you can't. You know what I mean? And maybe I reply too slick. Whatever it is, I don't know. But at some point, we all got to get some of this stuff out to somebody because, and again, specifically men, because we sit around and hold it in. You know what I'm saying? We mumbling it in, you giving it off, and it's not really coming out right when we talking to people. And then one thing, why not just Jamal, but a lot of my homeboys, I tap in and make sure whatever it is, because I already know we all going through some shit, and it ain't that many people that really they will respond to. Like I'm one of the people that with most of my crew, they will be like, all right, I'm going, and then and even if they don't, it's gonna come out. Like at some point, Jamal's whatever it is gonna reveal it. So it's like, oh, okay. All I said was hi. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like,
hi, nigga. What you mean hi? When the bills is due.
Women in the world don't need to be like, yo, brother, I was just saying that, But again, it's outlets. That right there could free everything that he needed for 10 minutes, so that he didn't kill somebody that was dead in front of him, or didn't disrespect somebody else that was dead in front of him. And because it's not going to be replied with disrespect, no matter how it comes back, it could be a disagreement, but it won't never be left on red as disrespect. It'll be like, oh, I just don't agree. You see what I'm saying? But these outlets is all I'm bringing back, is that what men do need, and the reason why we have bad communication for the most part is because we, as well as women, don't. Like I said, we flip, in my opinion, Black Americans, that's the best we can call us. We flip-flop on who's the lowest on this totem pole. So every day we waking up like, up, tag, you lowest, tag, like a stock. Up, today you lowest, today you lowest, today you lowest. And neither one of us can value each other because, nigga, how you was lower than me yesterday. Who the fuck you think you talking to? Like, you know what I'm saying? We still got that on our mind because, like, it just is what it is. I mean, the conditioned human beings. And until we can remove that, until we can say, all right, we equal, and really truly mean that, and what equal does not mean equal power. I don't think for the most part, all the women that want equality is going to jump in front of the bullet the same way a man would be. So I don't think that was what that means. It's just about treating, like I just said, like you just said, shit. You walk in our house, nigga, a great meal. You want it to be done. It's gonna be done by me. Yeah. You know what I mean? That don't mean she ain't gonna make something to eat. Like we ain't gonna starve. It's just if you want what you want, finger licking. That's what come with equality. That's equal to me saying, you know what, you might as well do it if everybody's saying this is what it is. You better way.
Fingers, brother.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. If you want to do that, or if you want to just be polite, that's the yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, bow your head. Okay. Oh, damn, that was good. You know what I mean? Pull one of those, or if you want to really eat your food, shit is different, But again, it's the quality of saying, all right, well, why don't you do it, as opposed to bitching about it. That's what I mean by that. Because I could easily just be bitching. You see what I'm saying? Which a lot of niggas do. Just be bitching. You don't cook like my mama. Goddamn, chicken again. What? Pasta? Like, that's easy to do. It's easy to bitch. You feel me? Like, and again, I came into I also bitched. You feel what I'm saying? So I understand how easy it is to be like, damn, nigga, you eat salmon every Thursday. Okay, now you're going to do tacos. Like, nigga, all right, well, stop bitching and do something about it. You feel me? Like, that's where I stood at. Because I realized how easy it is just to, what is that going to do? I'm still going to be hungry after I bitch. You feel me? Like, it did not make me hungry. Once I realized that, it was time to now say, okay, like the old milk spilt thing. Like, I can't just keep worrying about who spilled the shit. It's time to clean this shit up because it's starting to stink. You know what I mean?
So this is one thing we was talking about real quick, and I want y'all to chime in on this because it ain't really hit home, but I just think it's something that's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna be like direct about it because that's the best way for me to like really just say it. But anyway, like, well, how do you like do you feel that some people like I ain't gonna say deserve, I don't even want to say ask for, but you know what I'm saying, how do you deal with, somebody that their language is, you have to be mentally, emotionally, or verbally abusive for them to understand your language, because it's some people that like take your kindness for weakness, or not even kindness, they just don't, you can communicate with them on one level, but it's not received the same. It's almost like you speak in two different languages, and for you to be understood or heard, you got to kind of go there with them for them to get it. You know what I mean?
You like
Have y'all ever
you talking about
experienced that?
stooping,
Talking about what?
stooping, like
Yeah,
stooping to where they are
I
kind
would
of.
say kind of that. Yeah, like stooping down to somebody's level. You know what I mean? Um, to get an understanding. Like, is that something that y'all ever had to go through? I was telling that experience about a chick I was dealing with. Matter of fact, we was in school, whatever, and she just was just super toxic. And for me to really get through to her, for us to get an understanding, I had to like be ignorant. I had to be aggressive and all this shit. And I was like, man, I can't keep up with this shit. You know what I mean? And I just kept it moving. And her next man, that nigga was abusive to the motherfucker. She loved him to death. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, just to be able to communicate, it seemed like sometimes you have to use some of them toxic ass traits, but that's been my experience over, different situations myself, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
but how you feel about that though, Jay?
Um, I feel like if you think that the relationship, whatever you're building, friend, business, romance, is worth the exercise, you will stoop, right? Because you want them to hear you, because you understand that they can only hear you at their level, and then you try to pull them up. Like, you got to re-explain. But at some point, the person got to give back and try to understand that you're trying to help them.
Mm,
And if they don't, then you got to like kind of cut the line, because then you'll always be brought down into that lower vibration.
mm,
And that's not the point of bringing the two people together. It's to create, I feel like when people meet, it's to create balance. Like I said, it doesn't matter to what degree, romance, works, friend, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's to create balance. So if somebody is always resorting to being toxic in a discussion, sometimes you got to leave them there.
mm,
Like I have said over and over again, I don't like being mad. I know how angry I get when I get angry, and I don't like it. So I make a conscious choice to try not to go there. But if I feel like I'm being offended, I'm definitely not going to let you like treat me any kind of way or talk to me any kind of way. You're going to get that gin that I keep trying to keep in the back pocket, but I don't want to go there.
mm,
I don't feel like it's necessary, but I think a lot of people go through that, and it really sometimes is a testament to show where you are and what you're willing to put up with.
mm,
And so, like I said, you got to practice. You got to be aware of what's going on, and then know how to practice your boundaries. Do you want to keep dealing with this? I mean, is the point to elevate or to go lower? It really becomes, you know, you having to pick one side or the other, because riding that train, like, that's too much after a while.
mm.
Like, having to always go down, that's too
So
much.
my question is real quick, and anybody can chime on this. Like, can a motherfucker change? Like, again, we all got our shit with us. But let's just say you do care about somebody, and that is a form of their language or toxic language or whatever you want to call it. And you want, you want to be able to, balance this person out, or not even balance this person out. You want to have harmony with this person. You know what I mean? You want your good and their good to come together. But they keep on resorting back to that. Like, do people really ever change? Or, you know what I mean? Like, you know, Because that's what you do. When you like, all right, I'm sticking in there because I want to. Because you know what I'm saying, like I'm sticking in there because we gonna get this together, whatever. At what point is it like, you know what, this person is not going to change, and this vibration ain't for me? Anybody can chime in on it. It's just a general.
If they feel safe enough to, I think that they will, but it's their choice. I think it's a safety thing. I do.
I'll say this, right? I think of examples like so for me, all right, first thing I'll say about toxic, right? Toxic is kind of like based on that person. Like me and you and Sheree, me, whoever, we can look at some shit and say, look how toxic that relationship is. Like, give you for instance, like we all know relations, couples that both man and women both selling dope forever for like 60, almost 58 years old. Wife still selling dope, man, husband still selling dope. It's like, yo, how's that in your mind? How is this making sense? This looks toxic to them who've been literally together 15, 20 years, holding each other down. There is nothing toxic about what they're doing. So toxic kind of is based on one person being healthy, the other person being poisonous. That's what toxic kind of means, because if both of us view that person as toxic, like Gucci and Keisha K.O., right? Those people, for a mainstream America, people would say that both of these people are toxic. But to people who know their relationship or who can relate to their relationship, they say goals, and this is and honestly, rightfully so, because there's a lot of things that you can build a case for what they've done positive as far as two people in a couple in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? You can look at whatever you want and pull out negative, but you can also pull out somebody who ride or die with somebody got a deserving ring, somebody kept a business running, somebody who holding down a relationship with the family, the kids, everybody's doing good. These kind of things you can point out. You can also point out what mainstream America considers toxic as well. So I would say to your thing, I think yes, certain people could live with toxic stuff because they also are a little toxic. I don't think anybody who considers the person they're with who is extreme toxic would be there for so much long. I mean, if you really hate red and somebody wears red every single day, you just can't. I don't think that you're going to exist in that relationship. You see what I'm saying? If it's not that big of a deal, you'll let it ride. But for the most part, toxic is kind of just based on how much you're poisoning people. Some people have their own toxic ways. The other person has understood that, and those both. Well, and again, I'm only basing toxic from what the outside looking in considers toxic. Because what besides actual the abuse words that you were using, mentally somebody abusing somebody, verbal abuse, or putting your hands on the thing, most people look at toxic and other forms as well. But if we were talking about just those three main forms of abuse, then yes, I don't think that nobody should stay. I don't think nobody should stay for verbal abuse. Nobody should stay for physical abuse or mental abuse. Nobody should, man or woman.
Do
not even
people
a little
change
bit.
too? That's the question. Like, you know what I mean?
I think yes, the answer, they will change. The question will be, will you be able to sustain the change? Do you want to let so much of your life get missed through and be treated and misrepresented while that person is changing? People change in jail as well. How many people wait for people for 15 years? You know what I'm saying? Dog, when you came out, you definitely a different man when you went in, right? But I couldn't sit there and put my life on pause for you. It's just not possible. I mean, I can answer the phone every once in a while to check on you, but my life cannot be staying on still while you figure out how to change for the next 15 years. To answer the question, yes, I think they do change. Can you sustain the anguish and pain that you will have to live with that person while they are changing is left up to that person. You know what I'm saying? And if there's too much pain, too much suffering, there's very rare people do change, stay. Some people stay for as long as they can make it and they give it their best shot, but they have now in reality wasted so much of their life. They might be indebted to that person because there's nobody else that can handle what their pain now comes with. You've been beat up every day, physically, mentally, or realistically. You are expecting people to do that, or you expect them to beat people up in your next relationship. So that's going to look crazy to somebody else that's like, hold on, what the hell? You see what I'm saying? You're now, so you really do have to get away. But to answer your question, I do think people change, yes. We got several examples, like we talked about Malcolm X changing. If somebody left Malcolm X's legacy to when he was Malcolm Red, it wouldn't make sense. People change. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, they do, but do you want to sustain the pain and anguish that you got to go through while these people are changing is left up to that person, in my opinion.
True.
Can
Good point.
I answer that?
Yeah.
Can I answer that real quick? One of the hardest things that I've witnessed as far as abuse cycles is you want the person to change while they're with you, and sometimes they can't. sometimes it becomes this. The person that's the abuser may always look at you as their red flag now, because they only remember you as the person that was present in those moments when they were their worst. So they can make the shift, but for some reason, even though they were the abuser, you now become the trigger for them. Because my mom and dad went through that. And no matter how much he tried to improve on certain things, he always fell back to that same disposition, I'll say. To everybody else, it wasn't the case. But I
And you're
feel
right.
like
And I
it
agree
can
because
be worked through. I think it can be worked through. But it really got to be a deep change within the person. Like, even the way that they view the person that they've been abusive to has to change. I think that's the full circle of changing, because you don't want to see that person that you were in a bad relationship with later and always be triggered by
Yeah.
them. You see what I'm saying? Even if you're not agreeing to be with them, if the trigger is still going off, then something still needs some work.
well, can I say this real quick? And I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you, right? Because what happens is, to the point you were just making, one thing is that some people, when you don't close, like some people live with this theory, like,
Yo, bus.
that's it. Once you disrespect me, I'm done. It's over. That is why when you see that person again, you're triggered. You never really close that chapter out. If you, you know, what happens is no matter what it is, you have to, like, now again, let's exclude somebody beating on anybody, these kind of things, but certain things have got to be said. To your point, you just said somebody can't heal right there with that person. It's very hard to heal, but those people can change. They won't be that same person around anybody else in the world. But when they get back to that person that was their victim, the victim could be triggered, and they could be triggered based on the same thing that a army vet would be triggered off if he seen
PTSD.
somebody shooting. Right? He just,
Right.
nigga, if I was in a war in the bushes and somebody was shooting every single day, and I come to Brooklyn and somebody shoot, listen, guess what? I'm getting down thinking this is the war. Like, it might look funny to you, like, yo, he tripping. No, this dude was just living in the bush where people were shooting for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? So it looks crazy. So yeah. But now to him, if he goes to somebody else, he's trying his best. If he goes to a job interview, if he meets a new young lady, if he meets anybody, that person is trying his best not to seem like an army vet, because he know how weird it seems to people. If that makes sense. So right to your point, the people do change. To both y'all point, people do change. But to her point, they may not change to nobody else but the outside world, because they so embarrassed of what people who know them for a long time know them as. If you are a molester, you do not want. That's why they started making people register as these sex offenders, because you want to change your life around. If you was once a molester, you don't want the entire world to address you as, hey, molester. You see what I'm saying? It could have been a one-time thing. I'm not condoning anybody. I'm saying it could have been whatever reason could have been going wrong, and now you have to live with that for the rest of your entire life. So yeah, when you go move to Idaho, you will never introduce yourself as a former molester. You're trying to introduce yourself as something that has nothing to do with what that troubled past gave you. You know what I'm saying? And that goes with toxic relationships as well, in my opinion.
But that's a good point, because but guess what? They realize that because of what you did, like, it's so heinous. People around you deserve to know what you did in your past. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Which is
I
interesting.
agree.
But this is what I want to tap into, Jen. This is you really like pulled out a diamond when you said sometimes the person you with won't change with you because you become their trigger. And I've seen that before. I've seen a situation where two people was married for some years, you know what I mean, end up getting a divorce, and the divorce might have been 20 something years, maybe 30 years, you know what I mean, old. And still to this day, you know what I mean, looks and sees that same person. You know what I'm saying? Now, they might have changed in different ways or whatever, but still sees that same person that they saw prior to them getting divorced. That same person that they didn't like. You know what I mean? Or they, whatever. I won't even say didn't like, but had that trauma with. You know what I'm saying? Had that relationship. And it's like, that goes nowhere. So what you is, and it might be some people on here that's going through, you know what I'm saying, an abusive relationship, whether it's mental, emotional, verbal, or even physical. You know what I mean? Even though we just talking about everything outside of that. And it's like you be thinking that you're hanging in there and things are going to change. But, you know what I mean? Sometimes it won't change with you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
deep because you have now became like that point of like almost like a target. You know what I'm saying?
A
Or a
catalyst.
catalyst for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it can't be unseen. Like you can't not be, you know what I'm saying, that catalyst in that, you know, in that relationship, you know what I'm saying, that brings about, you know, that you know what I'm saying, that negativity from that person. You know what I'm saying? And that's interesting. It's like you got a bullseye
So sad.
and it won't change. So you'll just continue to go on, you know, getting abused, you know what I'm saying? If that, you know, if you become that target, you know what I mean? That's interesting.
I just
I'm signing
feel
off,
like it's
everybody.
ego.
I'm signing off,
Oh.
man. Peace and blessings to everybody.
Bye, Fred.
And
Brush, give us
love.
a
Bye.
closing
I'll be
statement on the,
I'll
on
be
the
on the opposite side of your opinion in your DM
oh,
pretty soon, Jamal.
absolutely. Sure you will. I threw something in your
As
comments.
usual, baby.
I threw
If
something
you
in
think it's
your
up,
comments to get you stirred
I
up.
think it's down. If you think it's up, I'm gonna tell you it's down for sure. For
I threw a
sure.
little something in
Love,
your
love,
comments, man. You
love.
gonna be responding. All right, love you, bro.
All
All right,
right.
peace. So Jen, we about to tap out. You know what I mean? Close out. So you know, give us a closing statement on how you feel based on our conversation on mental, emotional, and verbal abuse.
Um, how do I feel? I feel like you know, I'm always talking about our race as a whole. I feel like I feel like our race is the most emotional, and then we argue about emotion left and right.
Mm,
Everything is based off feeling. You do things because you do and don't feel like it, and feeling is an emotion.
mm,
Whether you argue, whether you make up, whether you this, whether you that, you do when you become, you know, abusive, as we're talking about, you're reacting based on how you feel because you cannot find your words. I feel like if we understand where we are internally, it will contribute to how we start to communicate with each other. Understanding what you're going through kind of changes your perspective on how you see the world in a way. And so when people say things to you, you might start to hear it a little differently. It can encourage better conversations. It can just encourage a whole turnover, and that's something that I think we desperately need.
mm,
Because I'm tired of having these men are from Mars, women are from Venus conversations. You forget that you're the human first. It drives me crazy.
mm,
Like when you're in the womb, how many months do it take before they even determine the sex? You're always just the human
mm,
first. And we forget that. Like, you get born into this world, the rules get thrown on you automatically. My God, you don't even have a choice from the crib. They buying everything
mm,
pink.
mm,
Oh my God, for the girls, everything blue for the boys. Like, you don't get to breathe at all.
I
Except
hated
for
it.
that first 3 months you in your mom's stomach.
That's
They
why
just
I ain't
happy.
do
You
it.
know what I'm saying? You're just happy. You're happy that you got a healthy baby. And we can't just
Hmm.
be happy, healthy humans because we so busy fighting over what this and that sex should be doing. And this shit, it's old now. Like, when are we going to overcome all of this? I'm tired. Y'all not
oh
tired?
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
I agree with you. You know what I mean? And listen, you know, based on that is important that we, you know, just have dialogue so we can get closer to getting an understanding so we could get messages like that. Like at the end of the day, we human first. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, before they knew even what your sex was, they knew you was black. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
just a community, you know what I'm saying, is important for us to do whatever we got to do to win. And again, just like we was talking about with Fred, you know what I mean? If the man got to, you know, cook, you know what I'm saying? And the woman got to hold down the bills or whatever the case may be, we got to
You ain't cooking.
do to win. You know what I mean? So,
You ain't cooking.
no, I ain't cooking. But
Exactly.
I'm not good at it though. I'll do what I'm good at. Now, don't get me wrong. Hold on. Disrespect. I'm competitive. So if I have to cook, I'll throw
Oh
in it.
Lord.
Don't get it wrinkled because I iron it out. You know what I mean? But it's just not my thing. But
Well, that's a good
if I
fight.
got it,
That's a healthy
yo,
fight. That's a healthy
so
fight.
you know what?
That's a healthy
We
fight.
might have to do a cook off. They gonna say I lost regardless anyway because they you know what I mean. But we gonna do it. We might do a little cook off dish.
He's
Just
gonna lose.
we can bring the family together. Since you were saying
Oh
makes
Lord.
you feel good to have us all together and all us feeling good. So maybe we'll do a little cook off. You know what I mean? Daddy versus mommy. You know what I mean? I'm competitive. I'm bringing everything out. You know what I'm saying? Jen, you gonna be
I'm bringing the
judge.
plates.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I'll bring the plates to the fork.
It's finna go down. Trust me.
No, I can.
Don't,
Yeah.
cause I'm competitive. I will listen. I'll make something happen now. Don't listen. So, all right, that's that. So, yeah, my closing statement is, people, we gotta do what we gotta do so we can win. You know what I mean? We all got our own toxic issues. We all have our own traumas. You know what I mean? From childhood, from adulthood that we deal with. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we gotta listen to each other and try to support each other in a way. And sometimes supporting somebody is letting them go, is getting your own self-care, your own therapy, your own, you know what I'm saying, kind of getting yourself together before you assimilate back into a relationship. So, you know what I mean, just do some self-reflection and, you know what I mean, and get some therapy and heal so you can pass on that healing and that love to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
Mamas, come on, Queen. Close us out. Talk to us.
Um, I appreciate everybody coming on here tonight. Y'all know this is my bedtime.
Russell Simmons. Thank you for coming.
Um,
Coming up. Bless your night.
God bless you
so
tonight.
I ain't gonna say all that, but we are doing a live in person on March 22nd. Jen, you on the panel, right? Oh, anyway.
Boy. Yeah.
So the tickets will be the link will be in my bio for the tickets hopefully by the I ain't gonna say tomorrow, but the next couple days. You do have to purchase a ticket to get in. This is like a private place, so you can't just come in, walk in, all the other fancy stuff. And we still looking for panelists. So if anybody that's interested and would like to be on the panel, just inbox me, let me know. And if you missed this live, the link is in my bio to the Davises and Friends YouTube channel. Please go like, comment, and subscribe. All 53 of our episodes is on there right now. Make sure you go tune in. And I'll see you next week. Same time, different place though. But yeah.
All right,
That
fam.
should be fun. I can't wait to get some more of that chicken.
Ooh,
Hello.
the muscles, the spicy
Hello.
muscles. That's
The
a great
muscles,
combination.
the
Yes,
chicken,
yes.
and they got Southern Comfort.
Ooh,
Baby.
that's a combination.
Don't even open your mouth.
Y'all in the building.
Don't even say nothing.
So,
I'm crying.
Huh?
Hi,
peace.
Jen.
Bye, y'all.